Live tonight from Dover International Speedway. We're here back at one of the most challenging short tracks in all of iRacing. It's the Monster Mile 150. You're about to see it from green flag to checker flag on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from across the iRacing world. Welcome to tonight's coverage for this 150-mile race this evening. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me the booth tonight is Gary Weaver with Brent Wheeler in the director's seat for your action at this very tough racetrack. It's the Monster Mile for a reason. It's a track that can eat up race cars, and it's one of the most fastest and most challenging tracks to have a clean run all day long. And with this new draft package, as seen earlier today in real life, it's going to be one where we'll see record speeds and potentially some great battling, Gary.
Yeah, you are definitely not wrong there for sure, Justin. I mean, well, for the temperature, we were talking about pre-race is that we've been seeing temperature swings that were insanely massive within about 5 minutes. So if we see that during the race, this could potentially mess up a few runs that some drivers have for the strategy.
I'm glad you brought that up. With today, it matches similar to the weather we have seen throughout the entire weekend in Dover, Delaware, where it's been a very cloudy racetrack with the rain in real life coming over from the Sunday and, of course, clear skies into Tuesday. However, with the most cloudy sky box on the iRacing service, that means you'll see those temperature swings once every about 5 minutes, sometimes skyrocketing as much as 20-30 degrees Fahrenheit. The question is, which drivers will be able to have the best adjustment periods and best reaction times? They're about to wait and see as drivers get set to take the starting grid for the 2019 running of the Monster Mile 150. On your starting grid tonight, it's Shane Parrish on the pole, setting the only time in the 21.9s after just 17 total drivers took the circuit to record a time. On the outside, it's R.J. Williams with Connor Horn, the very talented young gun in his Chevrolet, starting off in the third position. It's Thomas J. George starting in the fourth position, meanwhile, with Brett McBride in fifth, Jeremy E. Miller in P number 6. Jonathan Caddell, who won at Daytona earlier this year and had a strong run at Talladega last week, will try and carry his momentum into a 7th place starting position. Jeremy Bazemore starts off in 8th, while James Pasquarello and Eric Stanford round out the top 10, Gary.
11th is going to be Sean Callist, and in 12th will be Scott Brotherton. 13th and 14th being Brad Borer, and last week's Talladega winner Todd Novosad in 14th place. 15th, Dylan Phillips. 16th going to be Brian Chambliss. 17th, the last driver to take a qualifying time is Anthony Fredericks, and we'll go to Dylan Jones in 18th. 19th, David Washington, and 20th being rounded out by the 3 of Jason Jacoby.
Jacoby having a strong season with his 2 victories. Will have to start in front of Kyle Kamer on today's grid. Brian Macklin will be starting race control and succeed his 22nd starting position. That will allow Andrew T. Jones to move up in that slot, currently position 24th. Next to him at the moment is Scott McClendon on the starting grid, with William Kruska in the row behind and Brian Lambert. The Rittenbergs of Jeremy and Kurt will start alongside one another, with Matt Miller, Andrew Freenage, and Caleb Weekly rounding out the 31 drivers that are registered for tonight's race. 30 will take the track tonight for the 150 miles and 150 laps from start to finish. A heck of a challenging field, a heck of a challenging race for today's action, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. The question's going to be, which ones are going to survive all the way to the checker flag?
It's a question that's definitely going to get answered, and yet throughout all of that starting grid time, the track temperatures went from about 90 degrees down to 71. So I've seen temperature swings, but my goodness, this is going to be absolutely insane for this race.
It's going to be absolutely insane for sure. For those that have not seen a race at Dover, Delaware before, this track features 24-degree turns and 9-degree straightaways, with the challenging portions, of course, being the corner exits. However, that's because, especially under turn number 4's exit, with these concrete surfaces, the car can potentially be bounced off the ground by the suspension and plastered back down into the racing surface, forcing so many cars loose. That is something a lot of drivers are going to watch for today. But with this new draft package, of course, we've been seeing crazy amounts of speeds. We'll see which drivers are able to carry that speed throughout the race today. Pace cars off the racetrack. Shane Parrish will lead them to the green flag today in the number 18 Ford, with R.J. Williams to his outside. They wait for the green flag. It's up at the flag stand. We're underway from Dover. A great start by the top 7, but a bit of wheel spin 8th on back as they go side by side into turn 1 and 2.
And coming off turn number 2, it will be Shane Parrish just getting the nose up front off 33. I think bounced off the outside wall at seam, but RJ Williams trying to close the inside lane for Connor Horn, but Horn right there on the inside.
And Connor Horn, a very talented driver we've seen throughout the entire season, usually up towards the top 10 or top 5 in the early portions of races, already up to P number 2 today. The last time he was on a short track was at Bristol, of course, last time they was at Bristol, for example. He had the worst of luck, ended up taking a strategy, trying to take 2 left side tires, trying to make that up today at Dover to try and gain some more crucial points on his season.
Hopefully that is the case. Someone trying to gain a position right now is Jeremy Miller as he moves up to 4th place, passing Thomas George. And here quickly single file, and well, it's going to be a battle for the lead down to the inside as the 24 tries to look to the inside. He'll actually make it on the inside of Shane Parrish off of turn number 4.
Side by side to go at the stripe. That time by, it's Parrish who leads the lap. But still fighting for the bonus port will be Horn on the inside line. And the Berlin Racing and Entertainment Complex Chevrolet able to come up to the outside line. New race leader, Connor Horn, just 3 laps in, heading to the end of lap number 4. RJ Williams moves up to 2nd as Parrish starts to drop back a little bit in his Ford.
Track temperatures increased dramatically at this point, about 13 degrees up from where, actually 12 degrees from 73 at the start to 85 right now. So those wild temperature swings already playing into effect.
Yes, indeed, a very slick racetrack right now. The hotter the track is, the more less grip there is on this surface. And of course, that can also play into the rubber that starts to build up. The top 4 have been able to pull away a little bit for the time being over Thomas J. George by about a second total. He leads on a train of more than a dozen cars right behind him for 5th on back. That starts off the battle starting to form between McBride and Cadell. And more others being forced off the bottom and forced up high.
And in the background there was a battle for 10th place just for a quick moment. David Washington moving up from 11th as he passed Jeremy Bazemore in the 1 as they headed into turn number 3 just that last time around.
One of the main things a lot of people don't think about is there's some different lines you can take at a track like Dover. Sometimes you can ride all the way down the bottom with this package. Others, it's double diamonding the corners, where you diamond in the first part of the corner and through turn 1 or turn 3, push up for the apex, then try and diamond off of the exit of turn 2 or 4. What do you expect to see today based on what we've seen in practice and what we've seen throughout the entire week on the service?
For now, it's starting to... Oh, wow. All right. Sorry for that. Dave Washington got right to the back bumper past Scarella entering turn number 3. But as far as corner entry goes, that's going to be probably varying, especially since the tires and the track temperature will have to do a massive amount of variance between both. So I'm pretty sure it's going to see somebody ride just one lane, possibly diamonding as Stanford moves to the low side, passing Jonathan Cadell for position number 7.
Stanford's trying to go on the move last time by Horn, a 22.5 at the stripe in terms of pace. Stanford, as we've seen passing on by, was a 22.8. But the biggest mover so far, take a quick guess. It's the man who led a combined 241 of 330 of the laps last season at Dover. It's your points leader, Andrew Freenosh, already up to 17th. That's 13 spots gained. And the first 10 laps trouble in front. It's his teammate Eric Stanford who comes on the traffic. Caution flags out for the first time today.
98 of David Washington and there was a third driver that was also involved on the inside lane. That was, I believe it actually was. Now it was the number 1, Jeremy Bazemore also involved.
Yes, indeed. Right now, Eric Stanford was coming out of the corner, but a bigger run came from behind for McBride. McBride gives him a bit of a shove, and the 2 teammates of Washington and Stanford have the worst of the contact from the incident. And as you mentioned, Bazemore smacking hard into the left side wall and adding some rear damage. A very rough incident, to say the very least, on the exit of turn 4, but something you could see with some of the closing speeds today.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a preview of what we are expecting to see, or what we could see. I'm looking back at the replay again. The 43 of Sean Callis, very good avoidance and a very good heads up as he definitely checked up in time, as well as I believe Anthony Fredericks actually also got a piece of that as a car came up into the track, the 98 into the 1. So it's actually possibly a 4-car incident where Fredericks just was the only one that kind of got lucky throughout all that.
And you also just seen that contact and kiss from McBride. You don't want to get a bump and run on the corner exit at this kind of a racetrack, especially. because that's what can happen. It can end up just getting you loose and send you hard to the inside wall. What was just said over race radio, I should say, for the checkup there from Stanford was he was just getting out of the gas to make sure he got in the corner, gets the kiss from behind.
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate. It's just one of those moments where it's a usual racing deal where you have so much momentum behind the guy in front of you, or more momentum than the person in front of you, and next thing you know, there's just nothing to do. They're probably checking out to at least avoid the outside wall, and unfortunately just end up in their back bumper right away.
And as you've seen, multiple different angles and multiple different drivers involved in this one in live action. Drivers are coming out of the pit lane as we speak as well, with everyone taking 4 tires and fuel. This is technically a one-stop race on fuel, with the fuel window being about up to 80 plus laps, maybe 90 if you can stretch it depending on how you take the corners. But we were talking about the importance of tires, especially since when there's been these major track temperature swings, especially yesterday on the service, seen by some, you can really burn up the right front tires to as low as maybe 20 or 30%.
It's going to be quite interesting to see what happens and if any drivers actually decide to really stay out and risk that possible blowing of a tire, because, well, it's not really going to be the best thing to blow a tire, but if you want to try and one-up the competition, it may be worth sacrificing that percentage rate that you have remaining on your tire.
And as to be expected, Brett McBride getting the end of longest line penalty. There is a new rule coming into the place for this week after Talladega. The max cost cautions you can have in the series now for a race is just 2. Cause a second caution today, and you'll see drivers ending up not being able to complete their event and being parked in the garage area. The caution points coming into tonight, there was a long list of them from the past couple weeks, whether it's from Richmond or Talladega. Daniel Eberhardt still serving a suspension, 3 race total, 2 left on it after his actions at Richmond. Is on probation for the rest of the season. The drivers a part of today, Jeremy E. Miller, 5 points coming in tonight. Drivers like John Fowler came in with 4, Brendan Johnson with 4, Brian Spriggs, a rough race at Talladega, at 4 himself. Horn has 4, Pasquarello with 3, Anthony Fredericks came in as well with 2 with Andrew Freenosh. Jason Jacoby, who did not make the last race at Talladega, has 2. With Andrew T. Jones with 2, drivers with 1, Kurt Rittenberg, Jonathan Goodell, Chad Schilling, R.J. Williams. You do have that go down with each race. You have incident free as the season goes on with each passing race. However, you don't want to end up pushing the limits, especially with the past couple weeks and some of the drivers pushing towards that limit of being suspended or having to sit out a race or 2.
Yeah, that's the point where you don't really want to. You have to sit back, take a look at yourself, and think, is it really worth doing this move at some point? So hopefully these drivers can think about that heading into this race, or at least heading into the next few laps of this race on this restart that we're getting in just a few moments' time. And hopefully no one here ends up getting a suspension for this race.
Indeed, for sure right now. Once again, the pace lights are off on the racetrack. Coming to lap number 16. Connor Horn is the leader. R.J. Williams in second, with Parrish, George, Miller rounding out the top 5. James Pasquarello sitting in 6th. Sean Kalis in 7th. John Goodell going to start alongside him in that top 8 positioning. Andrew Freenosh already up to 12th after a strong pit stop of a 14.6 in the stall. Drivers approaching the restart zone as the clouds settle over the top of the racetrack to its coolest point of the race today, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Mostly cloudy skies as talked about, with just an air temp of 65. We'll see if the temps pick up or drop. Off and away goes Horn. He hits the gas. Away we go, and a fantastic start for Connor Horn.
33 did not get going whatsoever, but neither did everybody else. So Connor Horn has a very large gap, as it's going to be a very close squeeze by the number 9. And nope, never mind. Down to the inside goes to 23 of Jeremy Miller, passing that 9 of Thomas George as they head into turn number 3 for position number 4.
And Miller nearly slides up the racetrack, but is able to hold on to the position. So he's up to P4 at the stripe that time by. He did have a lot of practice time, however, when the track went up fairly cool. Some of his longer stints, in fact, was when the track was around this temperature in practice tonight.
And practice is usually the best. A little bit of 3 wide in the mid-pack and contact 388, 34, all side by side for a few moments there. Just on the outside of the top 10. They all managed to settle it out. Oh, nearly contact. Just between Sean Callist and Jason Jacoby.
And Jacoby trying to use the outside line. Many people don't think about that line in terms of passing, but you can get it done if you can get to the quarter panel, and we're seeing that exact sample there. Look who's behind him, though. It's one of the most dominant drivers in the series' history for the past about a year and a half, 2 years, give or take. It's Andrew Freenosh riding that bottom side up to P11. He is on a blistering pace as well, Gary. It's going to be hard to try and stop him the way he's running. He is right now in the top 5 fastest cars on track.
And Jacoby will have to watch out for that possibly, because he's got Freenosh just followed him right through. So Jacoby hopefully may be trying to separate himself from the 88 in just a few laps' time.
And they've had some great battles too throughout the season up towards the front. They're both marred in traffic, of course, because they both did not record qualifying times and are stuck in line for the time being behind Brian Chambliss and Scott Brotherton. This time, though, Jacoby slides up. Better corner exit from Freenosh. He dives it on in for a chance for the top 10 as the sun comes out on the corner. However, a big-time launch from Jacoby. A great exit. Having to get out of the gas go, though, as it's nearly 3 wide.
And just a very staggered 3 wide. Nearly makes contact and tire smoke from the 3, and it's going to be a turn.
That is contact indeed as Jacoby trying to come down. Gets William Kruzka as the caution is out officially.
Oh, more drivers involved.
Jeremy Renenberg involved in that, crashing hard down the front stretch. A 3-4 car incident. Sean Kalis also getting some contact to the front bumper. And our second caution today comes out on lap 21.
Yes, Scott Kalis, Scott McClendon, and Matt Miller all checking up and pretty much performing a triple tandem unintentionally, all making contact. So they didn't even spin around, but that is a very big incident off turn number 4. Jimmy Rittenberg as well in the 26 with blown engine.
Unfortunate for Rittenberg for sure, but the way that looked there, especially I think for Jacoby, was I didn't think he was expecting to still be potentially 3 wide. I think it was just seeing that opportunity to get back to at least the middle line to try and get back into a rhythm.
Yeah, for sure. I don't doubt that whatsoever. I'm pretty sure what Jacoby was thinking at the time is I have to get down behind this person as soon as possible. I have to get behind the back bumper of the 20, fall back in line, and try and gain whatever I have back. And unfortunately, the 29 was just there at the wrong moment, at least for Jacoby.
Yeah, very unfortunate, as you see on some of the onboards too with the contact. Jacoby avoided significant damage, however, multiple drivers, as talked about, did get bad damage, and at a track like this, while on short tracks you can sacrifice a little bit of engine damage. However, you don't, of course, don't want to have any. The downside is, though, if you do have said damage, especially with the sensitivity of that front bumper with this package, you could potentially lose at least a couple tenths each lap down the straightaways, Gary. That could kill some of the drivers involved.
Yeah, it's not going to help out most of these drivers that do have any type of front-end damage. And you just have to hope that if you do get front-end damage, it's very little. As first up pit road will be Connor Horn. Second and third, a very close battle. Not sure who it is at the time. Looks like it's going to be Shane Parrish and RJ Williams.
That's how they sort out right now as they come out of the pits in live action. Should note the caution has in fact been claimed by William Kruzka for that incident. He was the one that was in the middle line when Jacoby was trying to get to that same piece of real estate. Jacoby expecting him potentially to maybe go to the bottom line as they're exiting turn number 4. But our second caution of the day here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network for the Monster Mile 150. You already have seen all the laps essentially led by Connor Horn and or Shane Parrish. Just the 1 or 2 by Parrish. Horn leading in every single one since he took that lead. However, a lot of things we were seeing were starting to come to change before that caution flag. Jacoby was moving through the field. Freenosh was starting to move through the field. We're starting to see those comers and goers we were actually discussing a bit before he came on air tonight, Gary.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be something that we're seeing. And unfortunately, another thing that we might be seeing is the fact that RJ Williams had actually sped on the exit pit road about 42 miles an hour just as he got to the exit. And that was leaving at pit road. So he was trying to get that extra position, and unfortunately it just cost him a lot. So he's still dropping back. But he basically would have, at the moment, he's still dropping positions, in fact, 21st. So instead of staying in third, he's going to drop back even another position, 23rd, 22nd. Now back to 23rd. So yeah, this is really going to hurt Williams later on.
That was his best track position all season, really, when you think about it. He had some decent runs, just his 4th total entry on the season. However, he had never started inside the top 10 before tonight. Now, He'll drop all the way to the back of the field because the speeding penalty stay in front of Sean Kalis, who ended up going a lap down due to repairs, and Kruska, of course, with the end of longest line penalty. As before we get to one to go for this next restart, the series, of course, made its debut of its All-Star format for the 2019 season. Trying to mimic some of the early 2000s formats, when you've seen a lot of the different All-Star races go for an elimination format. There are a couple heat races to determine how the starting grids will go. For that, you have to record a qualifying time, of course, to set yourself onto a certain position for the grid. Then you get sorted to the said heat races. Then, after that, it's about a 30-lap race for segment 1 for the All-Star race, where the top 16 end up moving on to segment number 2. You must take a green flag / yellow flag pit stop from laps 15 to 20 in that race. After that portion, you have a 20-lap segment. Top 10 move on for a chance to win the All-Star race. Drivers then have to take 4 tires on that stop and end up having a chance to win the All-Star race for a 10-lap shootout. Again, that's taking place after a week break that's coming up next week. The All-Star race takes place on Monday, May the 20th. Pace car lights are out on the racetrack here at the Monster Mile, with Connor Horn still in the lead. On the outside this time, Shane Parrish once more, thanks to the speeding penalty by RJ Williams. Can he keep the outside line and keep a second place position? We'll have to see with a hard-charging Jeremy E. Miller starting third. Green flags out, back underway, and Miller and Horn bull by Parrish on the outside line.
Well, you are not wrong about that hard charging, because Miller was right there. A great reaction time as well. So now it's the front two that jumping away, and Shane Parrish may be under attack by Thomas George heading into turn number 3 as George looked to the inside, decides against it.
Yeah, and Parrish, he's been having some decent runs since he started off. First memorable race was at Bristol when he had some incidents. Was able to recover for a decent finish then. Had a good run together at Talladega before some incidents. He's in a good position, I think, still to maybe come away with a strong race as long as he can keep the car clean and make sure he doesn't burn up the tires in this early run. He's taken a bit of a different line, though, Gary. He's using that outer line a little bit more, while everyone else behind is trying to paint that concrete line towards the end of the asphalt for the apron.
Everyone's trying to use that same line that everybody else is running, trying to put down as much rubber as possible in that singular line, as there's almost a little bit of contact between Pasquarello and Freenars on the exit of turn number 2. Freenars looking to the inside for position 6.
Andrew Freenars on the move once more in this number 88 machine. Side by side, trying to battle for the 6th position. This is a chance to move up plus 24. That is plus 24 positions in the first 30 laps. Able to have a much better corner exit, but still going to have to defend on an inside line. And you can see the way he's diving it in so deep in the corners. He's trying to make sure he clears that front bumper. Pasquarello, he lets him on in, lets him on by. So Freenars, the points leader, and one of the most dominant drivers at Dover last season with the victory in the fall race, is on the move.
I was half expecting a crossover from Pasquarello there. He looked like he was about to make a move for it, and it does not happen. So now Cadell has to look in his mirror for that 88, and there goes the 88 right down to the inside. So they make a pass. Well, maybe not, as Freenars looked to the inside but just couldn't get there. He almost did, but there was about 2 feet between the front bumper, between Freenars and Cadell.
One thing going on back in 17th, guess who's making a charge back? The driver involved in the last caution, despite left front damage, Jason Jacoby trying to make a push for 17th position. Scott McClendon holding on to that spot. RJ Williams also getting by McClendon in just the past few moments. So some of the drivers trying to recover from already early mistakes, already back on the move with the pace they are running at, as they'll try and open up a revolving door on Miller up in front. Pardon me, Andrew T. Jones.
Yeah, it's going to be a nearly 3 wide, at least. It looked like it was going to be, but Dylan Jones and RJ Williams taking a very low pass down the back straightaway, trying to get by Andrew Jones, and that's going to send Jones back down into the 16th place position for the time being.
Yeah, right.
Side by side for 5th.
Yeah, we can head back to there because Freenach is wanting to make a move on Cadell, and again, late breaks into the corner, tries to slide up, able to just hold on to the bottom line, and clears by Cadell. Let's talk about how difficult that is for a second, because for a lot of drivers, there's a chance that they'll end up pushing up like drivers like Thomas J. George in front just did, make contact with the door and end up causing an incident. For drivers like Freenach, though, we've seen time and time again in this series, he's just been able to stick his car wherever he wants to go, it seems, Gary.
Yeah, he's trying to make that work again. Like you mentioned, wherever he goes, he's making pretty much any line work. And, well, ironically, it's the line that everyone else is taking for the most part. It looks like Freenars will be setting his sights on Thomas George in that number 9 for 4th place.
What do you do if you're the other drivers to try and make adjustments, knowing that you got a guy like him moving up the field and quick, and knowing how dominant he was at tracks such as this last season and how hot he's been this year?
You just have to hope and save your tires as much as possible. Again, with the temperature swings, it is now up to 98 degrees on the track temperature, still 65 air temperature. So you just have to hope that, again, save your tires just a little bit and hope that everything works out. Maybe make a few adjustments to see whatever can work, whatever can accommodate. As the 88 is right on the back bumper of the 9. Will he make the pass into turn 1? He does not.
Looks like he's being patient with the pass for the time being and trying to diamond off. Get a bit of a faster run once more, just about a mile per hour or two quicker. George just going to let him on by, knowing he started all the way at the back end. Should mention, though, with that, mind you, that when we were at Bristol, Freenars was better on the long run when there's a hot racetrack. The driver that was better on the short run and when there was a colder track, like it was at the end of that race at Bristol, was the man currently sitting 17th last time by Jason Jacoby that is marred in traffic. This is starting to swing back to a cold racetrack because of the clouds, Gary.
Yeah, cloud cover has been very prominent here a few times in the practice session, and now it's going to be a battle for 12th place, actually, as a group of 4 cars here around each other. Dylan Jones moved to the inside of Rhett McBride, but McBride with a little bit of a charge on the outside, just like we saw Jacoby earlier, except McBride gets to the wall of turn number 2.
A lot of traffic starting to build up there right behind Todd Novosad, who in his first ever start in this series came away with the checker flank after getting a lucky push from Jonathan Goodell. Jonathan Goodell didn't at first know who he was at the post-race interview. He knew his name probably afterwards by finding out his backstory. A strong driver in some of the series on the iRacing service. He's dropping back like a stone, though very tight at the moment, it looks like, on the outside.
And Novosad is using the very top side a few times, and I don't know if that's intentional or not, but he's definitely trying to figure out something that's going to work. Now he's falling back in line. Looks like he is actually trying to use the top side, so it's quite interesting that Novosad is trying to figure out one line that no one is really using, trying to work that in, but Anthony Fredericks also made a little bit of contact. Oh, many drivers in the outside wall of turn number 2. Jones had a slight turn to the left there a little bit too soon.
And that's something a lot of drivers have to be careful of, Gary. At a track like Dover especially, that outside line can just come up and bite you with how quick you are off the corners. Sometimes at some points, near 155, 160 miles per hour. As a driver, how do you try and adjust for that to make sure you don't get too close while not losing yourself time by being too cautious?
They have to be, again, like you mentioned, very careful and cautious at some points. And, well, if you hope and you know for sure that you're not really risking anything. Oh, near trouble, actually, off turn number 2 there. Trying to avoid a lap car is Jeremy Miller, and he does, thankfully. The 98 of David Washington was there in the racing line off turn number 2. My goodness, that was a very close moment. But look at this, 88 has caught up to the rest of that top 3, or at least the 23 and the 18, both second and third respectively.
The Aegis car moves to the outside line, but that again was a very close situation. They were actually 3 wide with that contact as lap traffic stays up to the high side. That is a big time issue at this track too for some drivers. Lap traffic, if you reach up the wrong spots, especially knowing there's basically one line on corner exits, it can make it extremely difficult to try and pass them, and sometimes you can lose 1 or 2 seconds trying to wait for the right time to get by them without causing incidents.
Yeah, it's very difficult for sure, and you're trying to run at least your own line if you're a lap car, but right now someone who's definitely trying to make their own line was the 88 of Freenars, but look to the inside, Parrish just had a little bit more momentum there in the turns 3 and 4 portion of this racetrack as he's looking up just a little bit top side of Jeremy Miller. All 3 of these guys are in the train. I'm thinking that Thomas George may be able to catch up, but I don't think he really will in time. To the inside goes the 88.
Connor Horn currently leading by 2.5 seconds over Miller as Parrish lets him on go. Now will Andrew go now up to third on the board. This time by in terms of lap times, just a little bit slower than the race leaders. The sun comes back out yet again. Having to check up twice, in fact, for Miller. Nearly runs him over a third time on the left rear quarter panel. And able to avoid adding some damage. Freenars going to paint the line and wants that second spot now. Can he get the spot? No, not quite yet.
And it's a drag race down the front straightaway. Jeremy Miller not giving up that position without a fight, but unfortunately with that line right there that he's running through turns 1 and 2, it will not work. He has to be just a bit lower for it to work. Nearly hits the wall off turn number 2. Will he dive it inside? No, I thought he was. It looked like he was, but looks like he decided against it.
Well, he might actually kiss the wall. He added a slight touch of fender damage down that backstretch, running right up against it. But now he's in P2. Something I think someone like Connor Horn might have to keep in mind. It's 2.6 seconds the gap. Already on lap 50 of 150. Approaching 100 laps to go. That's how quick this race has gone. With lap times just falling off a second since the start of the race today. Best time today was a 21.6 by Horn and Clean Air. Right now, the top drivers on the track are running in the 23.2s. That's how quick these cars are with this package. And you can really hit consistent times too at this point of the race, where you see sometimes drivers being able to hit the exact same time about 3, 4, 5 times in a row, Gary.
And many drivers have that skill to really adjust with the temperature and with the track as well, hopefully, and take that slipstream to that advantage as well. As I'm just seeing a train of cars from about 14th on back, one of which involving a lap car of the 98 of David Washington. A lot of drivers all over the place here in this mid-pack, so they're trying to really keep it together to the inside. Near the 3 wide, around goes the 98. Caution is for sure coming out.
And it is Washington,
Kruzka
as you
again.
talked about. And nowhere to go for Kruzka, as he ends up getting crashed hard into the wall. A 2+ car incident. And to be honest, that was potentially coming with the way Washington was running. It looks like Todd Novosad was the one who pushed up into him and turned him down the racetrack. Andrew T. Jones's season of nightmares also continues, also involved in this wreck here, Gary.
As well as Matt Miller in the 78. Hard shot into both walls, actually. I believe he may have gotten tagged by the 29. I'm not sure, but he for sure hit that outside and inside wall hard. So, unfortunately, that 78 may be done. And looks like the caution is being claimed by the 34 Novosad.
Novosad was the one who pushed up to the left rear quarter panel of Washington, but it was just unfortunate circumstance, at least to me at least, with the position of where the lap traffic was being reached at the time. David Washington had been off the pace and struggling since his wreck, and they just all seemed to smother up around him when they were trying to build up and pass him, and ended up going 3 wide, and the contact comes.
That's really unfortunate. Matt Miller decided to retire the car right away, and very disappointing for sure as Matt Miller, as drivers start to make the pit stops here on lap number 54.
At this point, knowing that already happened with lap traffic, what do you do as the driver to try and make sure you don't end up having a repeat instance of that kind of a wreck?
Have to hope for the best and hope that drivers are more aware and not really pushing anything as much as possible, as it is just a scatter of cars leaving at pit road. I thought Shane Parrish may have sped off pit road, but it turns out that Jeremy Miller had just gotten ahead of him on that pit road exit. As far as drivers and locations go, you just have to hope that your car placement is enough, and if it's really urgent to let somebody by, just go high into turn 1, and not sure what the 98 was doing there, possibly not happy with the 24. I'm a little bit confused with what he was doing there, but either way, you just have to hope that drivers know where to put their cars properly, and hope that the location is enough to communicate with other drivers.
I agree with you on that one. Again, caution flag coming out. We're on lap 54 of 150 now, slowly approaching that halfway point. We're receiving a record-breaking time already. We've only just started the green flag about 5 minutes ago, rather, in this one. We've seen some quick paces today. We've also seen some great performances. Should give some shout-outs to some drivers like James Pasquarella, who came back earlier on in the past couple weeks in his number 77 machine. He's in the 7th position. Dylan C. Jones is sitting in 9th, and Dylan Phillips in the 10th position. Some of the bigger movers of the race today, outside of a certain number 88 car.
Pretty unfortunate for sure for some of these drivers that were involved. And as far as the whatever the 98 did, I'm not sure if he thought that the 24 is Todd Novosad, but it sure seemed like that motion a while ago may be a bit of an assumption that the 98 thought the 24 of Horn was actually Novosad. So not sure what that was about. They have similar paint schemes, but for sure I wouldn't be surprised if the 98 was not happy about that.
was just going to say, I was thinking about that a little bit now that you brought that up even more so. They do have similar color schemes with similar types of hoods, just a different shade of green. At the same time, they've got to hold a bit of restraint, don't you think, in terms of that, especially if you're not 100% sure?
Yeah, especially if you're not 100% sure, especially since it's been claimed maybe the 98 didn't know us, the lights are out. So other than that, though, I mean, even if you're not happy with somebody, you just have to talk to them after the race at the very least, especially since Connor Horn was leading. He could have gotten damage with that, as much as even the low bit is. That could have really messed up his race.
Yeah, he didn't get any damage, thankfully, from that. I think he was able to just bob to the right in time from that. But either way, as you said, pace lines around lap 56, going to be restarting on lap 57 of 150. 94 to go. Connor Horn's in the lead, but the man that we've talked about a couple of times, that's shown so much speed at this track and so much speed in this series for the past couple of years, Andrew Freenosh, who's won 4 of the first 9 races. He'll start on the outside line with Thomas J. George, his teammate Jonathan Cadell in row 2. Miller, Parrish, Pasquarello, Williams, Jones, Phillips round out the top 10 on the racetrack as the pace car goes underneath the commitment box. How will Horn defend once more? He had to defend at Bristol before. He'll have to defend here at Dover now. Green flags out. A great start by everyone up in the top 10.
That 24 has been getting the best starts on these restarts every single time, but now Freenars is right on the back bumper, so Connor Horn has really got to worry about that just a little bit. Thomas George up to 3rd. I believe he was about top 5, and it's a side-by-side battle in the back almost between Pasquarello and R.J. Williams, who's actually back up in the top 10 after a speeding penalty earlier on.
And that's a great effort to try and battle back, because in some cases it's hard to get through to the said traffic. But as seen in the real world race today, a lot of the good battles were 11th on back, with some drivers falling off, some drivers picking up the pace. Williams up to 7th now. That focus stays up towards the front though. Freenosh still about a car length and a half back and trying to reel in Horn. A little bit slower on the exit. It is a colder racetrack for the time being, but Freenosh is right at the same place that he would like to be. There's been many cases this season where we've seen Freenosh save his tires when he's behind somebody, take advantage a little bit of the aero push that makes the car tight, and just take off once he's able to get the pass.
Yeah, it looks like Connor Horn, for the time being, though, is just a little bit faster by about 1/10 of a second. 22.043 from Connor Horn to 22.191 from Freenars, so Freenars may have met his match in that form of the number 24.
For the time being, that's the thing. But at Bristol, mind you, he struggled on the short run, was one of the few drivers to run on the bottom, then started picking up pace lap 15 on. That is starting to look a bit of the case here, especially with the track temp down to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. It was up to as high as 95 during the pit window just a few moments ago. But he's separated by now about 5-6 car lengths over the battle that's starting to build up where Williams is at. Miller having to defend for 5th on back because Parrish, Williams, Jones, and Pasquarello all want to try and jump.
Yeah, everyone's trying to get by at the same time, and Jones is making that a little bit more difficult for at least the 33 of Williams, but at the same time it's also helping because 33 can get an early jump on Shane Parrish, maybe at the very least, but right now it's just a stalemate actually between the 03 and the 33 here.
Thing is though, Gary, I'd like to ask you more about this a little bit. Jones on that outside line, he can get a better, faster corner exit if he can time it up right. It's not as easy to run on the bottom because you can push up and have to get out of the gas to make sure you don't slam into the driver on top. That seems to be a bit of the advantage now for Jones and why he's been able to defend the spot.
Yeah, he's actually kept that spot as well, so he's not going to move down to the inside, but in fact he'll move up to the top side, possibly trying to get that same run that he's gotten on the 33 and trying to use it on Shane Parrish. So I would not be surprised if he takes to the top side, Parrish to the low side, and that does happen. But unfortunately, it's just not enough momentum as of now. But you are not incorrect with that. Lower side has to let up just a little bit to avoid. Well, never mind. Down goes to the 03. Down goes down to the inside for position 6.
Thing is, though, Gary, you can also burn up the right front more if you try and make your passes on the outside. It heats up that right front tire because you're carrying more speed on that said line and could just chew it up. That's why I think he went back to the bottom too.
I would not be surprised. And well, speaking of going back down to the inside, 33 almost followed suit. Williams trying to get down to the inside of Parrish. Will he make it stick off of turn number 2? Nearly, it's a quarter panel there on the turn exit, but somehow, some way, possibly no damage and no contact between both of those drivers, so Parrish is going to get shuffled back a little bit. Well, maybe not.
Parrish able to still defend, though, using that outside momentum as he's let back into line by Williams. Single file for the time being inside the top 10. But look who's moving up in the backdrop on the track. Jason Jacoby's up to 13th. Is at the back end of all this battling that's trying to form up as he's a part of the drivers trying to diamond off from the top of 3 and 4 to ramp it off turn 4.
Very clever move and very smart as well, trying to at least get whatever speed possible.
Oh, trouble in front. RJ Williams gets in the back of Parrish, but he's able to save it. Can he keep it?
Wide.
Yes, he can. They get through the 4 wide, thankfully. We still stay green. Parrish loses 4 or 5 spots. Williams will lose 3 or 4. By a heck of a save by Parrish.
McBride and Phillips got the best out of that. Side-by-side drag racing down the front straightaway. They went from 10th and 11th to what is now 9th and 8th and 9th, respectively. They're still battling it out, and they didn't stop going 2 wide, actually, between themselves just after that. But now McClendon down to the inside trying to capitalize.
Drivers trying to take advantage of the mistakes. Mind you, McClendon and McBride both have some type of damage on that front bumper. But more so McClendon at the moment compared to McBride. And they're also going to have to defend the man in the number 3 machine. In the J. Jacoby 88 Toyota, Jason Jacoby wants his way back into the top 10 here.
As looking at that back bumper, the 51, trying to make a charge, but he's going to have to worry about that 33. He's leaving that inside the lane way open for RJ Williams to try and make whatever pass possible, but if it happened earlier, I'm not sure if there is just a little bit of damage or not. I'm not seeing anything too visible on the side of Williams at all, actually. I'm not seeing any damage, not even a paint scratch. Compared to the 3, a little bit of right front damage on the left front damage, actually, on that hood. So Jacoby moves back down to the inside, trying to defend, but he's also right with that number 51 in McClendon.
Pace is again starting to pick up as the temperature swings very dramatically once more, as we talked about today. We could see even more so as this day comes towards its climactic conclusion here at Dover International Speedway. Meanwhile, back up in the 5th position, Dylan C. Jones. We talked about him using the top side before. He uses the bottom side just now to get by Jeremy E. Miller to move up to the 5th position.
And Jones trying to figure out whichever line works, but that may not work. Now, right, I was about to say, again, we keep seeing these drivers peek their nose down to the inside, expecting a little bit of a pass here. So they're trying to figure out, I'm pretty sure, more than likely, that's those drivers judging, do I have enough time to make a move down to the inside if I have this much momentum? And then, of course, you see them decide to go back to single file instead of making the pass attempt, which is a very smart move.
Yeah, it's a very smart move and a very difficult move in some cases, to execute the right way without burning up your equipment or risking losing the position behind. We'll have to see if they keep on pushing on forward. Lap traffic is ahead here as we approach the halfway point of the race. And the question is going to be, who's going to be able to hold on to the most momentum at this point? McBride is still holding on to that 9th position we mentioned. And he's slowly, though, falling back again to McClendon, Jacoby, Williams, and again, Parrish.
And McClendon and Jacoby both running the top side again. Not sure if, well, the track is actually covered with a little bit of cloud here, so that could help them out just a little bit. And right when I say that, the sun comes right back out. So very single file, very staggered. We see some drivers make some gains, make some losses, and no one has been side by side as of yet.
We've just reached the halfway point, as talked about, lap number 7,750 now here in today's race. Let's take a look at your Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break for the Monster Mile 150. Up at the front right now by 0.6 of a second last time by the stripe, as Andrew Freenosh trying to hold on. Freenosh moving from 30th to 2nd from the drop of the green flag. Thomas J. George sits in the 3rd position with John Goodell and Dylan C. Jones rounding out the top 5. Jeremy E. Miller is trying to hold on to 6th position where he started off, with James Pascarella and Dylan Phillips having strong runs today. They're in 7th and 8th. Rhett McBride sits in 9th. Scott McClendon rounds out the top 10, Gary.
And the 11th, making his way by the lap car of David Washington, is Jason Jacoby. Directly behind him, 12th place, RJ Williams making a position after a speeding penalty earlier on in this race. From 21st, he's up to 12th. Shane Parrish in 13th, 14th. Directly behind him is Brian Chambliss. And it looks like 15th will be Anthony Fredericks. 16th going to be the 55 of Brian Lambert. Kurt Rittenberg in 17th. 18th, Andrew Jones. 19th, Sean Callist. And 20th is Todd Novosad.
21st, and moving up to 20th in just a moment potentially, is Kyle Kamer, who's trying to make a move on Novosad. Scott Brotherton's in 22nd. He's the last car on the lead lap. 12 seconds back of the race lead. The drivers a lap down and a part of the OOF Club tonight, having to have some ice pads for the race cars. David Washington 3 laps down still on the circuit. William Kruzko amongst the DNFs along with Matt Miller, Eric Stanford, Jeremy Bazemore, Jeremy Windenberg, and Brad Bohr as the DNFs. The rest of the field did not make the starting grid, whether in race control this evening, or did not make the starting grid or pull the car out towards the green flag today. That's been a look at your Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded, so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600 plus iRacers already enjoying an FEGPC. PCs to fit every budget for $540 on up or available. Visit www.fegpc.net and mention the code LSRTV10 and get your build quoted today. Now on lap 82, make it a 83 out of 150. 68 laps to go. Look up towards the front because all of a sudden, now that it's reached the long run, a tenth a second is being gained by the man in number 88 in Freenosh.
And Freenars was pretty much right on the back bumper of the 24 just a couple of laps ago, but since then he's dropped back off again. So somehow, some way, Freenars is still hanging on to Connor Horn, but Connor Horn's still, again, somehow, some way, in front of Andrew Freenars after this long run.
It's very difficult to try and hold on, but at the same time, it's very difficult to pass on the long run at Dover because of a bit of the aero push and more so the worn out tires on this racetrack. We mentioned a bit about the tire wear before. What can you do if you're Andrew to try and get this pass, knowing that you're reaching the near limit of these tires?
I probably wouldn't even try and make a pass attempt. I would just sit right behind the driver that I'm wanting to pass, but at the same time, not really wanting to push those tires to the limit and risk blowing them out whatsoever. So Renars, again, closing the gap just a little bit there off turn number 4, but at the same time, it's not really going to be working out for Freenars. I'm pretty sure he wants to make the move, but doesn't want to risk that right front tire blowing out.
He might be trying to save it a little bit more. No, that time he smacks the wall. That's not saving a tire. That's adding damage. He tries to dig back onto the outside, but I think he's starting to struggle a little bit with some tightness. That's might be, of course, why he might not have made the move. Is if he's tight, it's very difficult to get underneath somebody or try and have the grip you need to make the pass.
Yeah, it's not really going to help out whatsoever if your car is really wearing that much, especially even with the small bit of damage that Freenars may have gotten. I'm not seeing anything too visible at the least, but other than that, still stalemate between these drivers.
Speaking of stalemates, it's starting to become one where we were showing Williams, McClendon on back. They've gone back and forth, side by side, upside down nearly a couple times in this battle, with right now Miller still holding on in front in now P number 9. This has got to be very difficult as a driver to try and sort this out because the more they get racy, the more sometimes it might make you want to push, and the aggression level can lead to disaster in some cases, as Jacoby nearly hits the back end of Williams and nearly taps the wall, trying to back away from him.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be Jacoby into the wall or Williams, but either way, it's, again, still stalemate. Jeremy Miller still somehow in front of all these drivers after these this amount of laps. And RJ Williams on the back bumper of McClendon trying to look to get back into the top 10 for the first time since about lap 30 or so.
Should note that cars are starting to get a little bit squirrely off the corner exits. As talked about, when the tires get worn out, especially with how they are in the fixed setups, of course a fixed series, the cars can really lose control if you don't feather the throttle off of the exit of turn 4 especially, which is why you see so many incidents past lap 50 of a long green flag run. These drivers currently racing on eggshells, don't you think, Gary? How can they try to make sure that that eggshell doesn't crack?
Well, I wouldn't be doing the thing that McClendon is doing for sure, making a move down to the inside on Jeremy Miller. Nearly makes contact there And, well, he's going to end up possibly losing a position with Williams on the top side, along with Jacoby directly behind him. But what they are doing right now is a smart move, is moving up a few lanes. And can he save it? He does. Great save by McClendon. That's, again, using the lower line. Not really going to help out. I'd rather use the farther lane up top so they don't wear the tire down as much.
That comes right into what I just said. Off of turn 4, once the tires start wearing, especially with the right rear part of the tire with the fixed setups, it can get very loose. What do you do as a driver to make sure you don't have that bobble, especially with some of the drivers being forced to use that bottom line to try and make moves where the car can be more likely to bottom out and lose control on that line?
I wouldn't even try and push for the issue. I would just lay off the throttle a little bit, make sure I don't push the car past its limit that it's already at, being set by the racetrack. Meanwhile, Williams moves down to the inside into the 9th place position. And finally, Williams may be making a little bit of a comeback here now that he's in clean air.
That time Miller trying to take a little bit of the risk, diming to the spot where the bumps are. Jacoby also forced up to the high side, however. That looks to be maybe by design because Parrish has been struggling on the inside line now for the past 10 laps. He'll try and dig it in still. That was close. Still able to hold on, but Jacoby carries the momentum on the outside line with more grip. Miller, though, struggles off the corner exit and loses 2 spots.
It's not going to help out for some of these drivers either way, especially for Jeremy Miller. He went from about 9th to what is now still falling back to 13th, a little bit loose on the corner exit. Now Scott McClendon passing him by. Just in front, though, it's Shane Parrish and the 3 of Jason Jacoby battling side by side for position number 11.
Last time we seen the yellow again was on lap 52. We are just about 33 laps in, including the pit cycle on that yellow flag. And now we're starting to see, I think with the case at least for what we just seen with Miller, the tire's starting to clip at about 60%, 65% around that range on iRacing with the NASCAR stock cars. That's usually the cliff of the tires and where it can start, you can lose tons of time either being very tight or being extremely loose. That's why Jeremy E. Miller, it looks like, is deciding to undercut the field and come in just above 50 laps to go.
I'm pretty sure he would have decided to stay out, but at the same time, with that massive position loss that I had just before, just a couple laps ago, I'm pretty sure he's thinking, well, you know what, might as well pit now and save myself the trouble and not risk it anymore.
I think that was the case too. Again, he slowed down a lot and was nearly lost the car 3 different times off of turn 2 before he ducked down the pits. Sometimes, while it may not be the best strategy, you want to make sure you finish in one piece, Gary, and that's, I think, what happened there at this point. Now that we've talked about pit window, and now we have one driver attempting the big-time undercut, how do you see this pit window working out? We're nearly about 40 laps now in the fuel window and the tires. How do you see some of the front runners trying to navigate how they're going to pit for this race?
Speaking of front runners, if you're Dylan Jones, you're not even trying to navigate. You're just trying to get a position.
Hold on 1 second. Change for the race late because Horn just ducked down to the pit lane and followed Scott Brotherton.
That's going to be quite interesting. So it looks like with 50 laps to go, 51 laps to go, Connor Horn's trying to get an even 50 laps just so he knows he can make it to the end.
They're both part of Harumbone Racing, Miller and Horn. So it looks like he might have... Do you think he might have talked to Miller, seeing that it's starting to get very slick and knowing how the risk of losing time, especially when he's at the front, and said, hey, I bet it's a better idea, I think, if you decide to come into pit because it looks like he's starting to open up that window too.
And many drivers are starting to finally come into pit road. Front runners, not as of yet from what I'm seeing. I thought the 88 of Freenars was going to go to pit road.
Pardon me for cutting you off there because Dylan Phillips actually spun on the very challenging pit entry here. He locked it down and barely got the speed limit. However, he turned it about 90 degrees, a full 180 in fact. This is a pit road, Gary, that is very tricky.
It's very brutal with the banking change from the corner to the apron. And, well, if you don't get the speed just right, which is preferably slow, then in that case you're going to be seeing yourself either really loose as the caution is out on the racetrack.
Oh, it is Sean Callis that spun on the racetrack in front of traffic. He lost control going on a straight line off the corner exit. And now this changes everything. This will pin drivers like Horn and Miller a lap down.
He's better off reversing here.
Yeah, he's stuck in the middle of the racetrack. I think he is going to finally back out once he gets at least some space on his relatives here. But as you might see on the race replay, He just lost it off the corner exit a little bit on with that tire, that wheel chatter you can get off the corner exit that I talked about, and just slammed it into the wall.
Yeah, Freenar's unfortunately with the most damage out of all these drivers, so that could definitely play into effect for his race, and not really the best thing that Freenar's wanted to have happen.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the Yeah, it was... Wow. Yeah, he tried to move to the right side and just sent it in hot and weaved hard to the right, as you've seen. Just slams it in. That's got to be terrible as a driver, especially with one of the fastest cars today.
Especially as the leader, you know that the fact that you start to go sideways, you try and hold on to it, possibly a full throttle away from the wall, and well, next thing you know, you have so much wear on your tires that you can't really do anything about it, and you just land the entire right-hand side of the car into the outside wall. So that's going to, again, hurt Freenars to a massive degree. I'm pretty sure he couldn't have really done anything else differently. He probably could have slowed down a little bit more, but at the same time, it was so sudden that what's happened has already happened.
Yeah, you seen it on the replay. He was flat out not expecting a car in the middle of the racetrack and just weaved hard into the wall.
Yeah,
it was so quick that he wasn't expecting it. And I don't think any of the other competitors were expecting him to do that there. Added some suspension damage there too, Gary. That's going to affect his corner in and corner off the rest of the way.
And looking at the replay as well from the onboard, he was, right in the racing line, unfortunately. And Freenars just with a last-second ditch effort to try and not T-bone the driver in front, which was the 43 of Callis, who has claimed the caution. And right now, Freenars back in pit road, trying to repair whatever damage he has left.
That was a very long green flag run, nearly 50-plus laps. Everyone able to get their fresh tires here, but extremely unfortunate for the season points leader coming into tonight, and someone that was so quick at Dover last season. In one of the few races this year, at least, that he struggled in so far for Freenars after having a nightmare start to 2018 until this point last year.
Really unfortunate. So one of the dominant drivers, as we mentioned before, 4 races won out of the previous 9, at least from Talladega on back, and now it was looking great for Freenars here for this race, but at that point on, it's pretty much over.
There's a chance he can try and recover at least a decent finish. However, the repairs put him at least back to 14th. Lucky dog was Connor Horn. That keeps his strategy alive. However, we'll start behind, of course, some of the wave arounds, and there is going to be a decent amount of them at least. Guys like Jacoby, Fredericks, Miller, Chambliss had all either finished their pit stops a few laps prior or just coming into the pit lane at the time of the caution flag. This is going to really mix a lot of the race order upside down for this one here, Gary.
Yeah, everyone's strategy is kind of a little bit messed up here, so the lights are out. But look at this. Dylan Jones, after starting 18th, he is up to first place now. So that's actually very, very impressive for that 03. He's riding, I believe, in about the top 5, top 10 portion for majority of that last run. Jonathan Cadell second. Third going to be Thomas George. Rhett McBride fourth. Kyle Kamer. Shane Parrish in fifth. So it's pretty interesting. We've seen a lot of drivers here hang out in the top 5, but not really many of them hang out in the top 3.
When it comes to Jones, his 3rd race of 2019 for the Aegis driver. And in those entries, he finished off with the checkered flag back on April the 15th at Richmond, his first win of the season, and a 6th place at Talladega. Now, he'll try and go 2 for 3 in 2019. Question is, can he hold on with the pressure of Jonathan Cadell to his outside? And fellow teammate for Cadell and Thomas George on the inside line. McBride starts 4th. As talked about, Parrish and Kamer in 5th and 6th. Andrew T. Jones starting alongside Kurt Rittenberg. Green flags back out, and we're underway once more. Under 50 laps to go, 44 left to go at the Monster Mile.
And Jonathan Cadell already falling back, entering turn 1, top side. He's going to let Thomas George on by. And quickly single file for the most part. Almost 3 wide down definitely 3 wide down the back straightaway. Very staggered, though, as it was Connor Horn making the move all the way on the inside, passing 2 cars, both the 44 Rittenberg and the 51 of McClendon. Freenars is also there just outside of the top 10.
Yeah, he's not as quick, though, as Horn because of that right side damage that really pushed the toe out a little bit and messed up the camber of the right front tire. It's going to make it much more difficult to really balance the turns, because especially the more higher quality force feedback wheels, you can really feel that kind of off-center cycle kind of round feeling that makes it so difficult to grip the corners.
Connor Horn, meanwhile, on a charge right now, as it looks like it's going to be Sean Callis getting passed, actually, as he's a lap car, and passed by Thomas George. So right now, Connor Horn is already on the charge. He's already gotten to the back bumper of Shane Parrish, as it looks like James Pasquarella's gotten black flag. Not sure for what reason as of yet, however.
You aren't allowed to change lanes before the start and finish line. That is a potential possibility for that double check on that one. We are double checking on that one for the restart. He was starting on the inside line as part of the waiver rounds, but he cut to the outside trying to get on by Dylan Phillips. That is why he got flagged. The caution, though, is back out on the racetrack in live action, and this time it's because of R.J. Williams.
Oh, man, he almost had Todd Novosad also involved.
And that was right around where Pasquarella was at the time of the black flag getting issued. And it looks like it was Pasquarella who actually made the contact trying to get back to the inside.
And it's Novosad, Miller, Williams also involved. Not seeing anyone else was also directly involved. Nope, right when I say that, spoke too soon. Jason Jacoby got a small piece of that, and just barely stopping short was Anthony Fredericks in the 4 on the top side.
Another quick caution. This is a track, mind you, that is known for its mix, on iRacing at least, of having long green flag runs and some caution kind of moments where you start getting these bursts of 3-4 lap runs with cautions. In that case, R.J. Williams and Novosad and Miller just in the wrong places at the wrong time at the time of the black flag.
That's really not the best timing for that black flag whatsoever, or at least the timing to possibly try and move, I should say. But either way, it was just terrible timing overall, unfortunately. And Pasquarella, fortunately, believe may have caused the caution. No one has yet claimed it, however. But for sure, Williams more than likely not happy about that. Went from about 3rd place on the exit of pit road, sped on that same exit of pit road as well, back down to 21st. And unfortunately, he's pretty much out of this race, I believe. He's still sitting in pit road, however.
Should mention that again, those cautions, unclaimed and claimed, were pushed on up with only the 2 cause cautions being allowed on the racetrack. The first cause caution, of course, as we've seen a few times, leads to the end of longest line penalty. Second caution means they're parked for the night. There is also, if you do not choose to claim the caution in the series, it will be reviewed post-race, and the fault will be determined at that time, with the penalties being added, and double the penalty points, mind you, if you don't claim it. To be precise, at least 2 points for the first caution unclaimed. Second cause caution, 4 points for those incidents on the day. And for some, that is very close. Pasquarella wasn't towards that line so much coming in. He had 3, to be precise, entering tonight.
It's going to be, yeah, there it is, actually. 77 has claimed the caution for Pasquarella, so not really going to help him out in the terms of the caution points here, as it looks like for the restart, we could be having a little bit of a change here for 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be Thomas George in 2nd, 3rd place, Cadell. Matt McBride restarting 4th, Shane Parrish still going to remain in 5th. I'm seeing Brian Chambliss actually back in pit road from originally 7th place. At least just about.
Yeah, with Chambliss, we're going to have to check what the reasoning is there, where he was a part of some of the close battling that we've seen on the track tonight. Should note that Pasquarella, on top of the end of longest line penalty, was given on basically a stop and go, of course, for the black flag. A hearing, going to have to double check if he's going to still have to serve said black flag for the stop and go on top of the end of longest line. He is 12th on the lead lap at the time of the end of longest line. That is still going to drop, though, before we get back going. We do have a bunch of waiver rounds again. Amongst the waiver rounds that are going to get back on the lead lap, Dylan Phillips, after spinning in the pits. Jason Jacoby will come back around as well. Anthony Frederick, Brian Lambert also going to take the waiver round. Pardon me, Dylan Phillips is still a lap down. That gets them from 2 to 1 for the race. So 16 cars on the lead lap. Lap 114 of 150, 37 laps to go when we get back on the green here on LSR TV, the iRacing Esports Network. I'm glad to have you tune in with us here for tonight's coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. It's going to be a cracker of a finish, I think, for sure, with guys like Jones, George, Cadell, McBride that are all showing some good speed, and guys like Horn that want to get back up to the front in this one, Gary.
Yeah, Connor Horn had a very great charge. He's still restarting in 7th place here, just on this upcoming restart, so we may be seeing him make a last-second charge here in these final few laps.
Still ways to go in this one, 36 to go when the green flag drops here. Dylan C. Jones, the control car in his black and red Ford in the 03 machine. When will he go is the question. A lot of drivers have been going as soon as they get to the edge of the straightaway. This time goes at about the start of the restart. It's on the left side of the track. Green flag's back out. We're underway once more. Another blinding start by the control driver once more. Big checkup though on the outside line though, coming from Kyle Kamer, losing 3-4 spots from the inside. On top of that, you have Freenosh trying to find his way towards the outside of the inside wherever he can to try and dart for position. Also up into the top 5 after the good restart was Connor Horn. He'll try and make the move now on Shane Parrish as he tries to diamond off the corner on the inside.
Yeah, Connor Horn again trying to make that capitalize again off into turn number 3, but just does not work. Connor Horn still just stuck behind that number 18 and still quickly single file for the most part, although unless you're Andrew Freenars and Andrew Jones trying to battle for 9th place at the moment, Freenars with the advantage entering turn 1, and he gets right by for position 9.
Freenars, even though with that suspension damage a little bit in that hard contact to the right front, still shows he's got some speed in that machine. There is a point, as talked about, where you can get away with some of the engine damage if you get to that point. It looks like he hasn't gotten to the range where he'll lose straight line speed and is still able to dive on and attack in this one. 33 laps to go as they pass by Pasquarella, who finishes his stop-and-go penalty and follows off the lead lap cycle in this one. 15 drivers now in the lead lap with a chance to try and battle for this win.
And most of which are still single file, although a very close group between oh man, Shane Parrish really slow on the entry at turn number 1. He got right up to the front bumper of that number 24. Finally makes his move to the inside. Connor Horn trying to get back up to 4th for the time being. Dives it in. Drag race off turn number 4.
And they get close, nearly door contact.
Ooh.
They didn't touch in fact. Just came about an inch or two from doing the door bang. Either way, Horn moves up a spot, up to 4th position. That did lose him a little bit more time. He's still a 1.5 seconds back of Dylan C. Jones, who's pulling away in that clean air.
Yeah, so that clean air is definitely benefiting Dylan Jones for the time being. It's the same type of lead that Connor Horn had for a good majority of this race, in fact. And right now, Horn has set his sights on the number 9, but the 9 has also set his sights on Jonathan Cadell. So, again, a very close-knit group, a very long single-file lane here. This looks like, well, no, actually, never mind. I thought that was a battle, and turns out there was not. But either way, Thomas George, maybe you have to defend here just a little bit.
Yeah, you can see the Herambone racing machine of Connor Horn trying to find a way to get by both those Steel Horse racing machines. They've kept their cars clean, and we have seen Cadell have, one of his strongest runs since that victory at Daytona, where he's been very good at the super speedways, had a good run in Atlanta, has had some rough patches since in between those said races this season.
That's going to be, again, just a bit of stats essentially at the same time, as well as, again, going back to the track temperature that we had earlier, actually. It's 83 degrees right now. It's still been fluctuating. It was 98 degrees on the restart just about 10 laps ago. So over that much amount of time, it doesn't seem like much, but when it's sudden and that quick, it's definitely a lot.
26 laps to go this time by for the leaders, as Jones still leads by 1.4 seconds now as everyone tries to find a way to get by Cadell, and they all hug the bottom. No one making the risk yet to pass the high side. However, there is a chance to use a lap car as a pick. Todd Novosad, who had to get some engine repairs and fell 2 laps down after one of his incidents, will move his way to the inside line to stay out of the way of the 4 drivers battling for position. There is 1 lap car behind them, though. It's James Pasquarella, who served that stop and go on top of the end of longest line penalty, trying to dive to the inside.
25 laps to go, and we have pretty much the entire top 4. Well, never mind, actually, as Pasquarella will be moving his way up through this. Not sure if that's exactly the best idea, but I mean, if he's not really making any contact and not making any too crazy moves, then by all means, go for it. It was pretty much the top 4 all in the line for the most part. Pasquarello will have to make his passing decisions at the correct moment, however, as he makes his way down to the inside of the 24.
Pushes up, slight touch, and Horn checks up, lets him on by, knowing that Pasquarello a bit more faster right now. Might have took tires on the stop and go penalty potentially. Pasquarello did not indeed, but he is starting to fly regardless on this racetrack as he shoves off George. That might actually help our Horn, though. He sees a chance.
He tried. He just, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, he just slammed the door. I think we both had the same thought.
Yeah, pretty much. He tried, but he just could not get there in time. So while Connor Horn tried to use that as a pick, it just didn't work out in time. So right now, again, we could be, well, actually, it looks like the 29 Cadell, or the 69 Cadell, rather, has a very great buffer between himself and the 9. So he doesn't really have any major opportunities going to happen to him, major defending opportunities at the very least, but it's going to be a close battle between the 9 and the 24 if that's what we saw. Into the inside goes Connor Horn.
Horn able to get to the left rear quarter panel this time. Can George carry the momentum though? Yes, he can. As Horn has to check up out of the gas, crack the throttle in fact as well, to make sure he doesn't push up. 20 laps to go this time by for the lead cars. And as this is all going on, the more they shuffle around in battle, the more this is going to help Jones. He's pulled away now by about 4/10 since these guys have started to be so close for this position.
I believe Dylan Jones actually set the fastest lap of the race as well since then. Yeah, 21.593. So again, that clean air helping him out a lot. Meanwhile, we still have about second through 6th, all in a single file lane. The 7th place position of Scott McClendon just barely tagging onto the rear end of that.
Now McClendon actually starting to reel them in a little bit, if anything. He was nowhere near this picture for position about 10-15 laps ago when you think about it in his L51 machine. He's closed the gap to the leader by to 3.13 seconds on the dot, and down a half a second behind the damage McBride, as McBride's starting to actually lose the back end of this train as well from the front bumper damage from both of them share.
And unfortunately for RJ Williams, decided to retire the race car behind the wall, unfortunately. So again, all that damage was just too much, and he decided, well, you know what, pack it up and we'll move on to 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, possibly. And hopefully RJ Williams can recover in the next race, as the more the laps close, the more that Dylan Jones has more of a chance to win. Everyone has really stopped deciding to make passing opportunities here. They've just decided to ride single file. Quite interesting to see as well, as everyone is deciding, well, you know what? If we're not going to make any moves right now, then might as well just ride single file. Thomas George a little bit to the top side off turn number 2, and nearly got the outside wall.
Should know Pasquarello, who passed by, well, everyone in second on back, is the fastest car on the racetrack by about a full 10th. Jones, meanwhile, is just in the same ballpark as, in fact, as Cadell, George, Horn, and Parrish in the 23 4s. So they've been able to stabilize the gap. The problem is they can't close it up. They can't find a way to seem to close up some time, because Jones is again in that clean air, not dealing with anyone behind, and reaching the lap traffic at good spots where they aren't side by side or bunched up.
And considering that it's just Dylan Jones and James Pasquarello and Todd Novosad moving out of the way earlier on, it's not really going to be much of an issue for Dylan Jones to either move out of the way or get passed by Pasquarello. I don't think that would really make a major caution.
It's Andrew T. Jones. Also collected in is Dylan Phillips trying to avoid it on the bottom side, smacking the wall. Caution is out with 14 to go. This changes a lot.
Looks like it was contact off turn number 2, getting tagged in the quarter panel by Kyle Kamer. And it was a long spin down the front straightaway. In fact, it was actually the 31 Brian Phillips. Wow, I'm not sure what exactly happened. He did have Scott Brotherton directly in front of him. I'm not sure if there's a speed difference or not. Yeah, there's a little bit of a speed difference, but unfortunately for Dylan Phillips, it was just very massive difference, and Phillips got the worst of that when trying to avoid.
It was down the backstretch, but when it comes to the contact again, Kamer ends up hitting the back end. Similar contact we've seen with Stanford hitting the inside wall down the front stretch. In the case of Phillips, You know how some people just slow down the second the caution flag comes out?
Yep.
That case, it looked like Phillips wasn't expecting the slowdown coming from Scott Brotherton and just slammed the brakes. Hard into the wall he went, and hard to the inside as well.
Yeah, lost all grip in his tires at the same time, and it looks like Dylan Jones and the rest of your field will be coming in for these final few laps for tires. Be interesting. Everyone on fresh tires for this restart. Possibly about 9 laps to go, maybe. We'll be getting the green flag.
This is going to be interesting who decides to do what here. The run that we just ran for comparison's sake, lap 115 to lap 137. 22 laps were under green. Jones just barely overran the edge of his sign and loses about a half a second before his tires go up. Now this enters also the strategy game as well, because Jacoby is amongst the drivers who didn't duck down that cycle down the pit lane.
Could be interesting to see. Looks like everyone here is taking 4 tires.
Throw that possibility out. Look who moved up to the front on 2 tires. Andrew Freenar's trying to try something different, taking 2, knowing it's late in the race.
Andrew Freenar's trying to do whatever he can. Jonathan Cadell, the fastest out of the drivers that took 4 tires by the looks of this. And Scott Brotherton still falling back. Not sure if he was in pit road for a while. In fact, he was. But either way, very daring move made by the 88 to get some track position up.
A very risky move, too, when you think about it at Dover, as him and Jacoby took a big-time gamble in this one and hoping that there's something behind, because this is something we haven't discussed much, because there hasn't been the various differences in strategies or anyone really having to stay out after, say, a 5-lap stint on a caution and in staying out. There's a strong chance of tire spin in the restart zone at Dover at this track, with the fixed setup especially.
And it's not going to be the best for the restarts. Jacoby has not only about 40 laps worth of worn tires, give or take a few laps, but also, again, that damage, as I mentioned earlier, left front damage still, and possibly a little bit of right side damage as well. Freenars has a huge bunch of right side damage from earlier on. Everyone else behind them that we've all been seeing racing together, aside from McBride and a few other drivers involved in that, they all have clean race cars. So this restart is going to be a little bit crazy.
Pasquarella's going for the wave. Kyle Kamer was the one who took the end of longest line penalty, claiming the caution flag after colliding to the back end of that of Jones to bring out the caution flag. But now, knowing that there's 2 drivers on old tires here, that can make things very interesting for this restart. What do you do if you're the second row on back, knowing the risk of tire spin that we just discussed?
Well, you better hope that you're better at the short run than the other drivers in front of you, as well as beside you and behind you. But with the drivers that are in front of you on old tires or heavy damage in the case of Andrew Freenars, old tires in the case of Jason Jacoby, you just have to anticipate that wheel spin and hope that you can get down to the inside and pass them just after the start-finish line. Not make that lane change, as we mentioned before, as lights go out.
The main thing I want to bring attention to and bring a point of too, it could get very chaotic on that front stretch too once the green flag drops, because if you end up hitting the gas too hard, Gary, you could potentially hook hard right or hard left and cause an absolute big one. A la Jimmy Johnson incident back around 2016-ish.
Yeah, it's going to be, again, you have to hope that the driver in front of you, if you're, at least in the case of Dylan Jones, you have to hope that Jacoby doesn't slam on the gas. He has to ease into it very carefully, but I don't know. I mean, there's also Freenars, just, again, on 2 older tires, 2 newer tires. That's going to be a little bit of a problem possibly for Jonathan Cadell, who's restarting on the outside lane.
Should notice what Todd Novosad, who's a couple laps down with that broken engine, 2 laps to be precise, requests an end of the longest line penalty to make sure he was out of the way for what could be a very interesting restart. 9 laps to go. Green flag waiting at the stand as Jacoby is the control car for the first time today. Green flag is out. A little bit of spin. They're off and away, though, fairly cleanly, but everyone else is bundling up nearly 3 wide. Jones, though, might get penalized because he switched lanes to the bottom. We'll have to see what the decision is. The wreck happens behind. In front, rather, it's George is able to save it.
Oh, my gosh. They were about, 4 wide there for a few months. They're still staggered. And I think the loss of position there for the L3 of Dylan Jones wasn't enough. We'll find out later on. But, my goodness, there are about 3 drivers that are side by side. Look at this, though. Side by side between Jonathan Cadell and Andrew Freenars for the lead.
The old tires have fallen off already for Jacoby. Cadell wants to try and get onto the inside line. Can he try and get a second win? He backs off for the time being. 7 laps to go to try and get this position passed.
Jonathan Cadell trying to capitalize again on the 2 older tires and the right side damage from the 88 of Freenars. Takes to the top side. Well, anything come with that off turn number 2? Nothing too visible as of yet. They seem to be even for the time being.
Horn's able to recover for the time being to third. He's also trying to go in the charge with the fastest laps of his race so far. He's trying to close back. He is now 7/10 back. Cadell gets the stronger runner to 4. Here comes the chance for Cadell as he dives into the inside. Can he hold on is the question. He gets on by on the 4 tires. To the race lead for the first time goes Cadell.
Barely got the edge as well in front of turn number 1, too. It was even for a split second. Crossover attempt by the 88 of Freenars. Barely closing the doors. Jonathan Cadell officially leader with 5 laps to go. Essentially the point of no return here. If caution comes out, then it's over, I believe. In that case, Cadell would be marked as your winner, but he's got Connor Horn directly behind him, as well as Andrew Freenars.
Horn last time by a 10th quicker than Cadell. Can Cadell, though, take advantage of the clean air as the track temp crashes to the earth? 4 laps to go at the stand this time by. Better launch again as Horn still has to try and get by Freenars. This is going to make it very interesting here as Jones looks like he is going to potentially get the black flag and be for the change. To the inside goes Horn. Next caution ends the race as Horn dives it in by Freenars for second.
Oh, nearly got the bumper from the 88. It was close, but Shane Parrish is directly behind as well. Will make the move on Freenars, decides against it. And looks like the 24 actually may have a little bit of left front damage, and he does. So many drivers battling for position. We'll see if Connor Horn can close the gap.
Time to hold your breath. 2 laps to go, this time by the peace sign up at the stand. Can Horn reel him in? Making a move behind us, Parrish for 3rd position, but it's going to get dicey. Another faster lap time by Horn to Cadell by a 10th. Does he have enough time is the question. He struggles off of turn 2. Can he gain the time into turn 4? Dives it in deep. Able to close it down to 4 car lengths. White flags up on the stand.
Connor Horn trying to close the gap once again. Last time by, it is still, I believe, Connor Horn the fastest out of the 2, just barely. It looks like it could be Cadell off turn number 4 here in just a few laps. Yep, for sure. Into the outside wall goes to 24.
Horn smacks the wall. He'll try one more attempt. But for Jonathan Cadell, he was up at the front a majority of the day. But today, he'll get win number 2 of 2019. Jonathan Cadell able to get his 2nd victory of the year, his first not at a super speedway on the season in the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health.
Well, you were
Gary, heck of a run.
Yeah, you were not wrong with that prediction as well, or not exactly prediction, but more a staple of Dover International is that restarts again are just absolutely crazy as Jonathan Cadell burns it down.
And he's going to be celebrating for sure right now on Steel Horse Live as well on Twitch. A heck of a run for him, a heck of a run for guys like Connor Horn, Shane Parrish in that top 3. But with that, let's take a quick break, and why don't we? As when we come back, we'll give you your unofficial race results. Once again, Jonathan Cadell, his 2nd win on the season here at Dover International Speedway. You're watching LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network for your coverage of the Monster Mile 150 on for the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the iRacing Esports Network and LSR TV's coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Tonight's race, as expected, was a cracker, especially the finish. The strategies came into play with 10 laps to go, but in the end, it was Jonathan Goodell with 4 fresh tires coming away with the checker flag by 0.4 of a second over Connor Horn for his second W of 2019. Shane Parrish came away third today after starting on the pole and running inside the top 10 from start to finish, with Andrew Freenarch recovering to 4th position after being as high as the race lead before being involved in a caution with Sean Callist at about 50-ish laps to go. Scott McClendon came away with a quiet top 5 with Rick McBride, Brian Chambliss, and Thomas J. George rounding out the top 8. Brian Lambert, Anthony Fredericks finished off 9th and 10th, Gary.
Finishing in 11th is Kyle Kamer. Kurt Rittenberg finishes 12th. 13th, Jason Jacoby. 14th is Scott Brotherton. 15th is Andrew Jones. Dylan Phillips and James Pasquarello finishing 16th and 17th, respectively. Dylan Jones finishing 18th. 19th, Todd Novosad, unfortunately, after getting involved in a wreck just late in the race, finishes 19th. 20th is Sean Callist.
Should note, when it comes to Dylan C. Jones, he did, in fact, get that stop and go, that full drive-through penalty for changing lanes at the start and finish, which of course led to the checkup trying to not gain positions, nearly making it 3-1. Jeremy E. Miller DNF'd 34 laps down though. In 21st position, David Washington chugged along to 22nd, while RJ Williams finished off 40 laps down in 23rd. Eric Stanford came away 24th, 91 laps down, came back on the track for a little bit before pointing back into the garage area. William Kruzka came away in 25th. Matt Miller came away in P number 26, with Jeremy Bazemore and Jeremy Rittenberg rounded out the top 28. Last on track tonight, recording just 20 laps on the course, was Brad Bohr. The other drivers listed were part of race control or did not start tonight's action. Again, that's your full race results, sponsored by Ford Entertainment Group. Ford Entertainment Group PC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded, so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600-plus iRacers already enjoying an FEG PC. PCs to fit every budget from $540 on, up, or available. Visit www.fegpc.net and mention the code LSRTV10 and get your build quoted today. Let's head off to Victory Lane, because the man who came away with the checker flag has a lot to celebrate for the first non-super speedway win of the season for Jonathan Goodell, his second total in 2019. Jonathan, you came away with the checker flag at Dover. How does it feel to enter the multi-digit winners club tonight?
It feels exhausting. Man, I am out of breath. But it feels awesome too.
Why was it so exhausting to try and get this W tonight, especially since you're up towards the front much of the way in this one?
Did you see who was behind me?
Yeah.
All the best guys. And I was like, I got to run perfect laps. Even with Andrew taking 2, it took me 4 laps to get by him. That dude is just so good. So I was just like, got to run perfect laps. And I saw Connor get the second. I'm like, I'm glad we got 150 and not 152 laps, because he'd have got me.
In the end, though, you were able to get to the right spot for the position to be able to get by a guy with 2 tires, of course, and Andrew Freenach for the lead on top of Jason Jacoby, who stayed out on those old tires in this one. Let's talk about the whole race in general, though, because it was a race with a lot of track temperature changes, a lot of close and tight battles, especially where you were at some points of the race. How difficult was it to try and pass as the race went on and as the track rubbered up and the tires were worn on down?
Well, I wasn't really doing much passing. I had a good track position all race, and it was mostly just me defending my spot all race. I tried to save at the beginning of the race, and it worked out. We started catching people, and cautions came out. And then once we got to where I knew we'd only have one more pit stop, I started trying to drive harder, and that didn't work out either. I was losing spots. So honestly, man, if it wasn't for that late race caution and Jason Jacoby, I was mad when he stayed out, but kind of glad he did now. If it wasn't for that, there's no way I'd be talking to you right now. But, you win some, you lose some.
In the end, though, you're the one who came away with the checker flag, so you got a lot to be happy about for sure, as you mentioned. The next race, though, is after an off week. It is the All-Star race. How do you feel about yourself heading in and how your season's going entering the 2019 All-Star break?
I feel like we got a shot at the All-Star race. We got some good shenanigans going on for that, and shenanigans is how I win. It's how I won tonight. So hopefully we get some more shenanigans and end up talking to y'all 3 weeks in a row. Never happened to me before.
We'll have to see if you end up winning your shenanigans or by sometime, maybe, just maybe, pure pace. Anyone you want to thank before I let you go, though?
I'd like to thank all my viewers over here at Still Horse Live on Twitch. We'll be drinking a few natties tonight for these guys, doing a little bit more racing. Thank my teammates, Still Horse Racing. You guys putting on the broadcast. My sponsors, Natty Light. They always, they're good and refreshing for as exhausted as I am right now. And guys over at Kick Ass Beef Jerky. Make sure you go check those guys out, kickassbeefjerky.com. And yeah, good stuff, man.
Congratulations on the checker flag, your second of 2019. Go celebrate, my friend. Go celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
That's Jonathan Goodell coming away with the checker flag for the second time in 2019. His first not at a super speedway. The man going on the prowl, though, behind him, though, and who is standing by with Gary Weaver, is Connor Horn. Gary?
I'm here with the driver, the number 24, Connor Horn. He moved from 6th to 2nd in those final 9 laps in that crazy restart. But for a majority of the race, Connor, we've seen you out in that fresh air leading those laps. So what was going through your mind there with that massive change through track temperature that we've had throughout this race?
I felt that was a little bit better when it was cooler, but I also felt like I could hold my own even when the temperature was rising. I was able to hold off Andrew before that green flag stop I made, that I barely made it into the pits, but I feel like I made a winning move by undercutting him. I didn't know when he was going to pit, but I felt like it was going to be soon. I mean, you got to react here. And then, 43, I was right behind it when that yellow came out. He wasn't loose out of the turn. I think he decided to just turn right, cause a yellow. And I don't know if it was for Andrew or not, but he screwed over. Andrew gave him a lot of damage, but Andrew, the driver he is, he doesn't really matter what happens to him. He's so good, he can recover. And then the restart, Thomas came up because he was going to get trapped behind Jacoby, who was making a desperate move to get a better finish, trying to maybe pull a Harvick at Dega, but Thomas needed to move up, and I didn't give him enough room, so that was unfortunate. I luckily made the save, got by Jacoby, and maybe 5 or 10 more laps, I could have gotten to Cadell, but it is what it is. I guess I'll take another second after all that.
Yeah, it was very, very intense battle as well, hitting off of the, I believe, the final lap as well. Hitting off of turn number 2, you barely hit the wall, and I believe it was actually the only time you just hit that wall for sure that time tonight. But how are those tires throughout the race? Was there any difference at all with the track handling and the tire wear?
I feel like before the last caution came out, I cooked the right front because I was trying everything I could to get by Cadell and Thomas, because I felt like I was fast. I felt like I was faster than most of the race, and it's just hard to pass here. It's hard to get along the outside of someone without walling it yourself, and it's hard to get under them. You got to drive through the middle to get under them. It's just difficult to pass. You can't do much about it. But I felt like on the long run we had, the one really long run we had, I was able to manage my tires well because I saw Andrew backing it up, so I backed it up with him. I made sure I wasn't overheating my stuff, and I think that's the reason I kept the lead until I pit. And it's definitely one of the tougher tracks to conserve tires, so I feel like I did a pretty good job.
This tough track, you did a wonderful and a fantastic job, but for sure for finishing second. So before we go ahead and let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout to for your P2 finish here at Dover?
Yeah, all the partners we have, Menards, Hammer Bowling, Berlin Raceway, like everyone who's involved in making this happen. A shout out to them. My teammates Jeremy Miller, Chambliss, Skyler, who unfortunately couldn't make it, Shackelford, shout out to him too. Just we're all working together really nicely. The team's clicking together, and pretty much all of us are in a good position at the points, so hopefully it's just a sign of things to come.
Hopefully that is the case. Thanks for your time, and we hope to see you once again here in the next couple of weeks in the All-Star race. Congratulations again.
Thanks for the interview. Hopefully I'm getting interviewed for winning next time.
Hopefully that is the case.
That was Connor Horn coming away with second tonight. We'll see if that is indeed the case. In context, Skylar Shackelford unable to make the race due to severe stomach problems this evening. Sometimes health is priority over top racing. The man who came away in third, though, had one of his best races so far by far in the series. Shane Parrish coming away third tonight. Shane, heck of a drive tonight. Stayed up in the top 10 a majority of the evening. How are you feeling coming away with the top 3 this evening?
Well, I feel really lucky. There's a lot of guys back there that got in that, wreck right there towards the end. Definitely a lot faster than I was tonight, but felt really good. Turned a really good qualifying lap. Felt great about that. That was a big shock when I seen that come up on the board. Felt really good.
Yeah, your first pole in the series, in fact, so far in 2019. Your previous best finish had been in 20th. How difficult was the race for you today, especially to try and keep your car clean without having any incidents, and also keep it up towards the front like you did?
Well, basically, we just keeping it clean, like you said. Somebody was faster, wanted to get under. I just kind of left them go around me and go, so I didn't put myself into a pinch and just kept myself there towards the end. Watched the tires. Had a lot of changing in the race and the track. Had a few times I couldn't keep it planted in like I wanted to. Moved the line around a little bit, and after a couple pit stops, and we got back into it and started driving back up there.
I was just going to ask that as well. Gary had asked that to Connor Horn about that. How did you feel about the dramatic temperature swings? He felt he was better in the cold temps. How did you feel when you were best at when those temperature swings were happening?
Well, I got to be honest with Andrew and David Washington. I've been doing a lot of training with David especially. I want to thank both of them and Aegis and our group there. But the looser it got, the hotter it got, the better I am. I like to be able to keep that rear turning off the corners and be able to steer it off and not so much just being able to push it up off the corners. So for me, I was a little slower. When the clouds were out and it was colder, the warmer it got, I could notice I was starting to gain on people pretty well. So I like a looser, hotter track.
Of course, the third place, your strongest run so far in your second top 5 of 2019. Next race is the All-Star break, the All-Star race to be specific. How do you feel about your chances for the All-Star weekend coming up in just a few weeks?
Not one of my best tracks. I'm going to do a lot of practicing there starting here tomorrow, getting ready for Charlotte that's coming up around. So we're going to do a lot of practice there. I'm hoping that I can turn one of my worst tracks around and make it one of my better ones and hopefully come out with a top 5 finish.
Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your best career finish so far this season?
Well, definitely David Washington. I mean, I've been with him now for quite a while. He's my crew chief, spends a lot of time with me. Just can't thank him enough for what he does and how he's taught me. I've come so far since I've joined Aegis, SK, and Noble. They're just a great group. All the guys in there are great help. So can't thank David enough. He's been a huge part of calming me down and getting me where I'm at now, and I look forward to getting faster.
Congratulations on the third place finish tonight. A heck of a drive. We'll hopefully speak to you soon once more.
Thank you very much, guys, and if you ever need any single sponsorships in any of the races, please get a hold of me. I'd love to help you all out. I'd love to be a part of that.
We'll see if anyone does, in fact, get a hold of you, and that's something that a lot of drivers might be looking for. Congratulations again, Shane.
Thank you.
That was Shane Parrish coming away in third tonight. Gary, your final thoughts before we say goodbye this evening.
It was absolutely... Pretty sure we said this actually at the beginning of the race beforehand. It was absolute insanity. Right now, the track temperature is already just under, it's actually at 69 degrees right now. Air temperature stayed the same throughout pretty much the entire night. So it is just a complete massive change. Very interesting as well, as we have the massive temperature swings as well. So that final 9 laps was definitely something to look ahead for.
It absolutely was in this one. It changes of strategies. And in the end, win number 2 goes to a driver making a pass on someone on 2 tires to be able to take the checker flag this evening here at Dover. Andrew Freenars is currently in the points lead by 60 points, heading into the All-Star weekend over Kyle Kamer for reference's sake, with Eric Stanford in third, Jason Jacoby, Brian Chambers in the top 5. We'll have to see who carries the momentum through the All-Star break. That comes up in just 2 weeks after a break. That is going to be specifically on Monday, May the 20th, for this year's All-Star race. That will be followed up by the 150 lapper at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the next points race for round number 11. That's on Monday, May the 27th. For that one, you can see the action for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series once more on the iRacing Esports Network and LSR TV. But with that, it's time to say goodbye here from the Monster Mile. It was a heck of a race with lots of comers and goers, lots of leaders, and in the end, the man driving the number 69 machine comes away with a nice victory. For Gary Weaver, for Gary Weaver, and Brett Wheeler, I'm Justin Prince, saying so long, and we'll see you next time here on the iRacing Esports Network. Have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you for our next race.